Okay. Let me briefly explain the concept of sustainability, which is actually thinking of the future generation or considering the future generation without stopping to use the resources that we are using. It's actually is a concept where we are thinking or we are utilizing the resources in a way that it will not future generation. All of these organizations or all of these policies, all of these technologies that are being developed in a field of, for example, energy, in a field of various fields of science, it's because of the concept of sustainability. All of these things are happening. And the concept of corporate social responsibility is actually it's actually the responsibility of an organization regarding the impacts of its decisions and activities on the society and on the environment, meaning that it is the responsibility of an organization according to the concept of CSR or corporate social responsibility, that what they are doing, what is the application of their products, or what is the process they are using to develop those products, either in a form of services, either in a form of a concrete product or tangible product or something. It is the responsibility of the organization that is developing the service, developing the product, that how and what would be the impact of all of its operations would be on the society and on the environment. And there's a concept of unsustainable CSR as well. If anyone amongst you is interested in giving his or her review on the concept of unsustainable CSR, anyone? Alrighty, the concept of unsustainable CSR is as I already that a CSR is the concept that it is a responsibility of every organization to think about the consequences of the action on the environment and the society. And the sustainable CSR, the type of corporate social responsibility that is not sustainable. Thus, organizations or the businesses or the enterprises are not considering the impact of their activities on the environment and on the society. For example, greenwashing is a deceptive concept of marketing that is used by many organizations. They say that their products are sustainable. They say that their processes are sustainable, or they are using green source of energy, or they are using recyclable products, but in reality they are not. So this concept of deceptive marketing strategy is called greenwashing. And another concept that is present in unsustainable CSR is tokenism. It is similar, but here the a reason for claiming that they are producing a green product, or their processes are green in nature or are sustainable in nature, is because they only are complying with the rules and regulation, and they are not genuinely concerned with the environment, or they are not genuinely working on mitigating the impacts of their processes on the environment or on the people. Now there is also a concept of World's Overshoot Day. It's actually the date demand for the ecological resources. Ecological resources are those resources that we are using for our existence. For example, water is an ecological resources, fruits, food, and everything, metals, fossil fuels, everything is actually ecological resource that we are using. So the date when our demand for the ecological resource in that particular year exceeds with what the earth can regenerate. As you all know, for example, let's take an example of the water cycle. You all must be aware of the water cycle, right? So we are using water, and plants are also using water, but the water or the earth or the ecosystem regenerate the water, right, through a water cycle, through rain, through precipitation, through snows, through hail, and through these means, right? So when the we are using water excessively. For example, in 2024, the World's Overshoot Day is predicted to be on, I think, in on July 23rd, right? So on July 23rd, the concept of overshoot day is actually on July 30, 20 to the day, and it is getting shorter and shorter every day as the World's Overshoot Day on previous year on 2023. It was I guess it was in August, maybe on August 2nd, and is in July 23rd in 2024, and in future it would decrease day by day, which is very alarming. And then we also studied the concept of triple bottom line. Triple bottom, it's a concept that enterprises or businesses or the organization, they only focus on one point, that is profit, making profit. So triple bottom line is a concept that includes the concept of not only profit, but also it considers the benefits for the people and for the planet. So triple bottom line has 3 P's in it, that the organization during its functions, during its working processes, needs to consider what their profit as well as the people and the planet's well-being. So this is and we have studied the concept of 9 planetary boundaries. These are actually that this is the phenomena or the concept that were devised in 2009, and it explores the limit of the impact of human activities. For example, like after crossing the boundary, the earth would not be able to regenerate itself. 9 boundaries include, like, for example, climate change. We have acidification of the that are considered in the 9 planetary acts of the human activities, and it would be obviously very, very alarming. Okay. And is anyone here interested in discussing briefly what is the concept of carbon cycle? It's similar to what the concept of water cycle I briefly mentioned. Is anyone here interested? Alrighty, let me just briefly explain it. Carbon cycle is what actually you must be aware, right, that the plants are secreting carbon dioxide. We human beings are also, during the process of respiration, are creating carbon dioxide, right? So all the living organisms are releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, either human beings, right? This carbon dioxide goes into the atmosphere, goes into the air, and through the process of photosynthesis by the plants is converted into bicarbonates by mixing with water. Also, our oceans are a great natural sink for the carbon dioxide. They are also absorbing the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere naturally to minimize the concentration of the carbon dioxide and maximizing the concentration through the process goes into organic molecules like our fruits, our vegetables, like these things, and we are eating those bicarbonates, and then the process we know. This is the environmental carbon cycle. This is a natural process. But now, with the rapid increase in the anthropogenic activities or the human activities, especially the burning of fossil fuels, hole is creating the trees large amount of carbon dioxide in carbonate and inorganic substances. So this carbon dioxide is actually uh, um, increasing in our atmosphere, which is acting as a obviously blanket all over the earth and is creating change or the global warming. Okay. We also studied that or throughout the evolution of the earth, we have okay, throughout the reconnection throughout the evolution of the earth. All of you can hear me, right? All right. I suppose. All right. Okay, Anthropocene is actually the recent epoch or the recent era in which we are living. Excuse me for a minute. All right. Okay, Anthropocene, as I said, that it's the era that we are living, where the impact or the effect of human activity has started to have a very significant impact on the whole environment. Before this, the whole history of the human being and the whole history of the earth actually divided into many eras. Actually, like before, there was the era called Holocene, where the human life started after the glaciers, after the ice age, when the glaciers melted and the human beings began to live on the earth. So Anthropocene is the area where we have maximum human activities, and the environment or the ecosystem is facing the dire consequences. Then we have scope. We also learned about the scope 1 to 3 of the carbon emissions, which include like scope 1 includes the direct sources of emissions like burning of the fossil fuel by a organization, by a company, by a human being. Then we have scope 2, this which is indirect. For example, the energy generation of the electricity used in a company building. That company is not directly emitting that carbon dioxide or that methane into the atmosphere, but uh, the an industry or the area from where they are getting the electricity is doing so, but the company is indirectly emitting the carbon dioxide by using that electricity. And then this scope 3 actually also includes the indirect cause of emissions that is created by the company's whole value chain. For example, the products brought by the company, the products used by the company, the processes used by the company, and the end results of these products is also the products that is bought by the consumers, how it would end, how much carbon dioxide or methane is creating that the product is creating is included in the scope 3 of the carbon emissions. Then we also did the life cycle assessment, that is LCA. Life cycle assessment includes all the aspects of the that from how used, and then how it was transported, and then how did it end, where did it go in. Each and every aspect of the its end is discussed in the life cycle assessment. Then we have the concept of trilemma of energy transformation, which includes three aspects, hence the name trilemma. That is fulfilled every time, every day, every second, or not. The next aspect is energy equity. That is the energy that is being produced is affordable by everyone, is provided everywhere in the whole world, or in the whole continent, or in the whole country. And the third is energy sustainability. Either the processes through which we are creating the energy is sustainable or not. So these are the concepts from unit 1 and 2, important concepts that I wanted to briefly discuss with you. Since we are halfway through now, let's begin today's session. Today's session include the topic research method. And as you all are aware that research is a tool, a very important one to progress. Okay, you use all of your senses to find a problem and use research as a tool to find solution using various means. It's actually a problem solving tool, and in today's world full of problem, research is essential. Now on your screens you are seeing the definition of the research. The word research is made up of two words, re and search. Re means again searched. So the word research is what? Actually researching again, searching again, sorry. Now, according to Monroe's, W.S. Monroe's, the research can be defined as a method of studying problems whose solutions are to be derived partially or wholly from the facts. By taking the facts, you have to derive solutions for a particular problem with the process known as research. Research is a systematic, formal, intensive process, and you use scientific methods of analysis to carry out your research. And now, the research, depending upon how you conduct it and why you conduct it, etc., can be different. Like some essential or important type of research are, you can see on your screen, just quantitative. That is when the information you are getting is in a form of quantitative data. Quantitative data, as the name suggests, is based on measurement of a particular amount or a quantity of a particular. Now, it involves quantity or a amount and includes measurements. You gather and interpret numerical data, the data in number, and discover patterns or make predictions. You use tables, graphs, formulas to reach a conclusion. You can also use data to find a correlation between two patterns as a cause-effect relationship, or you can monitor certain patterns. And you use experimental research, you can use surveys, you can use observation, and you can also use the secondary research, that is the data from the previous researches, for the quantitative research. The next type of research is qualitative research, when the information is in a form of qualitative data. Now, qualitative data, as the name suggests, is quality of a phenomena. It describes quality, right? It answers why and what. Specifically, it is used for studying the patterns of human nature or behavior. Okay, and you carry out the qualitative research by observation, like you see or hear or encounter a phenomena, and you can also interview or ask people about a topic of interest or a particular phenomena. And then you can also use focus groups, like you ask question by the group of people or by the group discussions to generate conclusions about the topic of interest. And you can also go for the survey, other existing data like images, like text, like audios or videos, to do a case study. Okay, now let me give you example of the quantitative research. For example, you conduct a survey to identify trend in a product of your organization where you are working, and you want to identify the trends in the demand of the product and market share. Or example, meteorological department correlation between changes in the temperature and rate of precipitation with, for example, deforestation on their area. Obviously, you are here playing with the numbers, you are playing with the numerical data, so that would be the quantitative research. And for qualitative research, for instance, you are carrying out a qualitative research on the political context of a climate change. What is the view of, for example, politicians or the political parties on the phenomena called as climate change? There's this research that I came across is on behavior or views of the millennials and generation Z perception, that is intergenerational perception of climate change related to the health impact. So this is example of the qualitative research. Then we have fundamental research, which is primarily concerned with formulating theory or understanding a particular natural phenomena, right? Now, next is on the basis of method of research, that what type of methods you are using. No, sorry. Okay, method of research, what type of methods you are using for the research. Number one is philosophical research. Obviously, it is qualitative in nature, and the researcher is focusing on the vision of others, on the content of the, that what is the vision or what are the concept of other. Then we have historical research. As the name suggests, it includes the past event, research on the past event. It could be qualitative, it could be quantitative. Then we have experimental research. It is majorly quantitative in nature and deals with the future events. For example, you are doing experiments and the interpreting the results of that experiments. For example, in labs. For example, in the ecosystem, the parameters, for example, water parameters of water, and then you using the data obtained to interpret the future events. And then you have case study research. It deals with the unusual events. It may be qualitative as well as quantitative in nature, depending on the content. And then we have empirical research that focus on aspects like observation and experience, and it actually is based on the data, and it involves the conclusion that can be verified by the experience and observation, and it doesn't focus on the theory or system. Empirical research is actually a research that is used to find a concrete evidence. We have also the types of research that are based on the utility of the content, and those include descriptive research that incorporates surveys and fact-finding investigation through like what, where, how are explained, but not why. Then we have, for example, we have an example of descriptive is what is the average reading abilities of the children ranging from age 5 to 10 in a particular institute or in a particular city. It involves like case reports, cross-sectional studies, and it describes the character of a population related to phenomena of your interest. That is descriptive research. Then we have analytical research, where researcher has to interpret the data available to him or her, mostly used to uncover some evidence that support the present research, and they want to make it more authentic. That would be the analytical research. The applied research is used when, for instance, your company faces a problem and needs an immediate solution. Like, for example, your company is not getting profit and the energy supplies that it is using is very costly. You would research the better energy source for your company. So that would be the applied research. And it is used where obviously a practical solution is needed through evaluation research through research and development, uh, or and through action research, that see that you are researching, you are searching for a solution and you are adopting the solution simultaneously. That is action research. And evaluation research is evaluating before going for a research, evaluating either the idea or the research idea you have put forward is worth gonna use or not. Then how the whole process of research is conducted. What is the process? Briefly describe you all of the steps. First and foremost is formulating a research on to research. And obviously you cannot go for the whole research concept, right? You need to find a problem first and foremost. For now, the problem, if initially you would only get a general idea, either formed due to the observation of your environment or an area of interest, then you would obviously want to read and survey more about that particular problem that you have observed or you have interest on. And what better way is than the literature survey? That is, you will use academic journals, you will use conference proceeding, you would use government reports, books, newspapers, etc., to read more about the problem that you saw or you observed or you are interested in. Depending on the nature of the problem, you would get a extensive literature survey. Then you would develop a hypothesis. Hypothesis is just a tentative assumptions made to draw out a test, the logical consequences, that if we do A, then what then the consequences would be B. For instance, you will draw out a hypothesis. This is just a tentative statement, and it needs to be tested. For example, if you have selected or you have observed the problem that temperature of Islamabad, a city in Pakistan, is increasing rapidly. This is actually the research problem. You have observed that the temperature of Islamabad is increasing rapidly. Then you would study or go for the extensive literature survey, that for instance, you came across an article in for example, a European country, and you would say, and it would say that in XYZ country, these were the causes of rapid increase in temperature, or these were the effects of the rapid increase in temperature. Then you will develop, based on this literature survey, you would develop a hypothesis that since XYZ country has deforestation as one of the causes, Islamabad might be facing the similar cause effect relation. So that would be the hypothesis on which your whole research would base on. Now, based on this hypothesis, you would prepare a research design. Research design is what? A structure or a framework about how would you go about conducting a research. What type of research are you going to go through? What sort of expense you would need to conduct that particular research? Or how much time do you need for that research? What sort of sample designing do you need? Is it qualitative? Is it quantitative? What sort of research or what sort of data you need to collect for that research? It is all based on that tentative statement or hypothesis that we developed. Next, obviously, is analysis of the data. You would analyze the data after the execution of the project. You go, for example, collection of the data. Either it is a lab work, either it is a field work, either it consists of surveys, either it consists of interviews or things like that. Then you would obviously analyze the data, and then you would test. Was your hypothesis right or wrong? For example, if let me take the example of the previous research problem, that is rapid increase in the temperature of Islamabad, then your hypothesis was the deforestation might be the cause of uh, uh, this rapid increase in temperature of Islamabad. So you would go for the qualitative as well as quantitative data, right? You would go to the maybe CDA to get the map out of the forest in the Islamabad or the nearby areas, or you go to relative authorities to check either how much a forest area was, for example, 10 years before, and how much is it now. You might go to, like, for example, meteorological Pakistan meteorological department to get the data of rainfall, or to get the data of precipitation, rate of precipitation and temperature of the decade, or maybe 2 decades, or maybe 3 decades, both future and present. And you will then interpret that data and analyze what are the trends in temperature and the rate of rainfall, and how they can be linked to the deforestation, the rate of deforestation. And then you will, after analyzing the data, you would see that, is was your hypothesis right or wrong. Can your hypothesis be fulfilled, or it should be rejected? That is up to the results of the analysis of the data. And obviously you will then interpret, and then you will prepare the report based on all these steps. Now let's discuss some important aspects and terms related to the research process that you need to understand. First one is research problem. Okay, now problem is actually what? A question which is to be solved. Now, problem identification, as I mentioned earlier, is the first step in research, but identification of a problem or devising research topic is not equal to selection of a problem statement. A problem statement is another thing. Now, research topic or the research problem. Okay, now research problem is actually what it is. It concerns with the functioning of a broader area of the field of the study, and um, as compared to research problem, the research topic is just a statement. It's a concise or a small or verbal statement of the problem. Like the research problem is a broader area. It consists of many factors. However, the research topic that you would select is actually what? Just a small statement. For example, rise in temperature is just a problem research topic, or a title, or just a small statement. But the research problem is huge, that what could be the causes, what could be the effects. It consists of the research problem. So there's a different, these both are not synonymous, but they are inclusive. They actually elaborate each other, but they are not the same things. Next, how would you identify a research problem? Now, a research problem can be identified. For example, you can see on your slides that number one is determining the field of research, like the topic of your interest. Mainly, obviously, people select the field of research or the problem. The topic of problem or the research problem is what interests them, right? You think that it should be research as it seems interested, or maybe you think that uh, it is a matter of concern. So you would select that. You will determine that field of research. That you select that field, and then you would select the topic that is your specialty. For example, uh, rise in temperature is a major field. You are interested. Oh my God, temperature is rising rapidly globally. That is the field. But among that rise in temperature comes a lot of facts and factors and elements and everything, right? So you would only select that topic which is your specialization, or you think that you would be able to master that particular area of your interest in short time, so that you can carry out the research. Next, you would find the recent trends. You have obviously you have now seen, observed, and taken interest in the problem. You need to review the latest trend of the problem. For example, you have selected the rising temperature in the problem. You would review or study the latest trends, latest patterns, latest technology, latest methodologies related to the rising temperature, that how the rest of the world is perceiving that problem, how the rest of the world is working on that problem, and what are the consequences of their work, what are the consequences of their facts and figures that they have. You need to study that through the literature review. Then you would find a particular portion out of those recent trends. On the basis of your investigation of your recent trends, select depending on what sort of resources you have, what sort of time limit you have, what source of, for example, what source of knowledge you have to find one of that trend. For example, rising temperature was our problem, rising temperature of our area of concern, and the recent trend shows number one, like geographical information system GIS and remote sensing to determine the patterns of the rising temperature. Another aspect could be like new energy resources are needed to be generated to combat the rising temperature, that is to mitigate the carbon dioxide. There could be some aspect or is some literature on the social aspect of the rising temperature, the qualitative and quantitative analysis. What is the consequences on the, for example, third world country on the rising temperature. Then there could be other area of interest or a recent trend, that is policy making, that what sort of international and national policies are needed for the to mitigate the aspect of rising temperature. And you will select and prioritize where and what do you want to research on, obviously depending on your expertise and your interest and your resources. And then you would explore your field through the your experience of field or knowledge in drawing out the problem, like selecting the area of interest from the cause of rising temperature. For example, in your organization, either, for example, you are selecting the cause of you are prioritizing the sorry, you are drawing the analogy in the problem identification, that is exploring the problem. For example, you want to conduct a research in your own organization because your expertise lies in that particular area of your organization. And for example, it might be a deficiency of a particular policy, or maybe the energy resources that you are using might be wrong, right? Or maybe the behavior patterns of the employees are wrong, or they are contributing to the rising temperature uh, in your organization. So here at this step, you can take help from the experienced person or your supervisor or your boss. And next, you would pinpoint the specific aspect, and then you will start your research. Now, you can find these problems anywhere and everywhere. Like, for example, from your schools or your organizations, from the schools of your kids, that your kid comes and says that our teacher told us about this problem or the consequences of this particular pattern, etc. You can get the source of problems from schools, universities, communities, and you can also get the problem statement from, for example, ever changing technological trends. You can find a problem from previous research as well. We call it is research gap. And questioning towards the prevailing strategies, or you can question the prevailing policies, that could be a problem as well, patterns, etc. And finally, you can also find the problem statement or problem from by consultation with your, for example, supervisor or from your boss. After identifying the problem, you need to give a problem statement, which is a statement explaining why a problem you have identified is a problem and why it needs to be rescheduled. Oh, sorry, researched. And according to the philosophers, that the three criteria of the good problem statements include that it should be concerned with the relationship between two or more variables, that is correlation between two or more variables, that if this is if A is happening, then B would happen, this type of thing. And it should be stated clearly, in a question form, and it should be amenable into empirical testing, that it should be uh, based on scientific or concrete data. Whatever you are stating as a problem, that is a problem, it should be based on scientific research or previous research, or maybe or it is supported by the empirical testing, or concise or concrete data. Also, the statement of problem signifies that why your problem should be researched. And keep that in mind, that the step of finding the problem is not to be written in reports or thesis or whatever you are writing, but the problem statement needs to be mentioned in the written form, usually in a form of paragraph. Let me, for example, if you from the previous example, for instance, you have selected one aspect of raising temperature, for example, replacement of the fossil fuel or mitigation of the carbon dioxide by using or by developing new energy sources, for example, be since present energy sources are the sources of the greenhouse gases, and ultimately climate change, a clean energy source is needed that is economically feasible and sustainable. That would be the problem statement, as the concept of GHG and climate change is based on previous testing. It is based on previous testing that fossil fuel burning is causing greenhouse effect, global warming and climate change, meant to go on about your research. This is just an example, and obviously you would make one for your own research. Now, the objectives of the problem statement is actually what to make the research work feasible. Obviously, you would need a pathway, or you would need a step in order to go for the uh, particular in order to go to a particular way. So you need the problem statement actually make your research work feasible, and it delimit the scope of the problem, and it also establish a proper frame of reference. Then after that, you would start your literature review. Now, the literature review that you have already studied to identify the recent trends and to get the research problem may or may not be included in the literature review in the written form in your thesis or reports. Here, you would only present the literature to explain the whys and hows of your research problem. First of all, you will describe the background. Again, for example, climate change is escalating rapidly, and consequences include this and that from the literature. You will give the figures, graphs, data to explain the dire situation or the scope of the research. You will also give the gaps in the knowledge of the previous research. For example, that particular study did not mention or did not explore this concept of the climate change or this concept of the raising temperature. So obviously you would also add into your literature review that. You would also you can also give theoretical foundation for the proposed study, that why you are doing this, that why the certain research methodology you have chosen for that particular research, and how the previous researchers use this particular methodology, and what are the drawbacks of this methodology. For example, you are developing a new methodology, so you would discuss that why the previous methodologies are faulty or they are not very efficient, etc. This is all present in the literature review. And here at this point, let me give you a tip. When you open the source of literature, for example, a research article, obviously it is very lengthy, right? Just to the head relevant, skim through the headings and read only the abstract and the conclusion section to see if the relevant data or methodology is available. If not, then you can go and find the next one, and it is available. You may read the whole article to get thorough knowledge on how you would use your knowledge, or how you use this knowledge for your own research. And also find the most latest data to get hold of the latest trends and knowledge. Do not look for a paper written in 2005, for example. Do not look for the newspaper news article or research article that is written or even 5 years ago. A 5-year old article is not um, considered a very good literature to review. Then obviously, a point to keep in mind is that literature review is not a one-time process. If you are conducting a research, you would need to go back and forth from your research to your literature review to fully grasp the idea, to mitigate the flaws of your research, and keep in mind the points on your that you can see on your screen, that what is the purpose of your review, why you are studying the particular paper, for example research article. Why are you studying that? Why did you select that particular paper? And what type of more articles you are going to select for your review? Did you get the problem statement from the review, or did you get the problem statement from your observation only? Does the review justify the research question or the research aspects that you are trying to investigate? Does the review or the literature review that you are writing is justifying them? What sort of research methods would be suitable for your research? Are they mentioned in the literature review? How can you design your study based on the previous data? So all of these points need to be considered when you are reviewing literature, and you are writing the literature review for your research proposal. Now, on your screens, you can see some website that would be helpful to you. Number one is the Google Scholar. Just write the topic of interest and you would get a relevant article. You can also provide years when you have entered the topic. The left side of the page gives you the option like from this year to this year, for example, like 2015 to 2020 or 2020 to present. Options like that are given over there, and they also give you options that either you need to find the review article, you would go search for the research articles to carry out the literature review for your research. Now, our tip for you is that when you are starting the literature review, start by looking at the current review articles, not the research article, the review articles, because the review articles actually explain and discuss various aspects of one problem researched by the various researchers and authors. It makes it easier for you to get a lot of information in single article, whereas the research article is only discussing a single aspect, that aspect of interest. So review article would be the better way to start your literature review. Second website that you can see the or link is Science Hub, because the articles are inaccessible. For those we use the Sci Hub or Science Hub, just type in the DOI. DOI is actually digital object identifier and of the paper, and it looks like the link you can see on your screen that is highlighted in yellow. That is DOI. You have to just enter the DOI into the research Sci Hub page, and you will get mostly access the paper using the website device. Then we have the third link is provided on your screens is an AI tool, artificial intelligence tool or a space that helps the new researchers to get relevant data. You have to type relevant research topic and it would give you suggestions of related papers along with very, very, very brief summary of either the topic you have just input or you have typed is described in the given list of papers or not. So it makes it easier for you to review the about is present in the paper or not without reading. Now, literature review also helps you making a hypothesis, as I already mentioned. Which is research. The if or sub about solution path. For example, you assume changing from fossil fuel to the wind power for your factory, for your organization, or your business would reduce the cost and also carbon dioxide emission. That is your hypothesis. You would work on it, get the relevant data, and interpret it. Your hypothesis can be proved or it can be rejected or falsified after interpretation. Conceptual in order to reduce the cost and the carbon dioxide emission, you need to shift from fossil fuel to the wind power plant for your company. That is your hypothesis. So it needs to be a gives a relationship, but a tentative relationship, and it should be a future oriented, and most importantly it should have support of the scientific research. You cannot blindly go and make a hypothesis or devise a hypothesis. You have to base your hypothesis on the basis of scientific research or the scientific facts, because your hypothesis, after all the work you have, all the resources you have utilized on your research, all the knowledge, all the manpower, all the money, all the time, and if your hypothesis gets rejected, then you would have to work on that research proposal again and again, and you would have to use more money and more resources for that research. So you have to take care that the hypothesis that you are developing is based on facts, on based on scientific facts and figures. Now, there's a running joke among the researchers, as you can see on your slides, that we have to find a reference for each and everything. Either it is a single statement, a known fact. For example, on your scene, you can see that it's just a joke, obviously, but it's true as well. Like, we have to find that greenhouse carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. For example, it's a statement, but you have to give a reference to that statement as well. Otherwise, the reader or the author or the reviewer would comment that how would you know, how did you know that carbon dioxide is the major greenhouse gas, major cause of the global warming, etc. So reference is needed everywhere, especially in literature review, and everywhere, especially in research. And the reason that reference is essential, is important, is because uh, the reference help us giving credit to the previous researchers or author. Okay, otherwise it would be just a theft of that knowledge, right? That we call plagiarism. Then it also helps the reader understand the content of your research better. For example, you're writing a statement about, for example, power plant, a technique to develop, for example, turbines for the hydropower plants. So you would mention the reference from where you devise your idea, so that the reader or the assessor or anyone else that who is reading your report, your article, your paper, or your thesis can get elaborated knowledge by going to that reference, by opening the paper, and can get the more knowledge on the statement that you have used. Also, uh, the reference also tells us that where the idea of the current research came from. That, for example, it first, or who gave the idea first. Now, there are three types of references. First is citation, second reference, and third is bibliography. Now, the citations actually include, those are the small word you might have seen if you have read a research article, or maybe you have read a report. The report that, for example, I showed you, the IPCC report, they had this name written over there, or the number given in the large brackets, square brackets. So these are actually the citations that are present in the text. For example, you're writing that carbon dioxide is the major contributor to the greenhouse gas emission. Fossil fuel is the major contribution to the greenhouse gas emission, and you would obviously write the name of the person, or the name of the last name of the author, or the person, or the researchers from whose article you have used to write or to get that knowledge. That is citation, and you have to add it in the literature review of your reports, of your thesis, of your research articles, to avoid the plagiarism. The purpose of the citation is to lead a reader towards the source of information, obviously, as I already mentioned. Then we have references. References are the uh, actually lines, or basically are the statements or a paragraph that have names of the authors of the sources where you get the data, the URL or the web site, when and where the paper was written, or when and where that article was written and accessed, and in which journal or in which newspaper it was published. All of these things are to be present in the references. Now, the word in-text citation only includes just the last name and the year of the publication in APA style, for instance, and but the references need each and everything: the name of the article, the name of the journal, the date of the access, actually the whole list of references. The whole list of references is bibliography. One reference is reference, and citation is only present in the text. So the purpose of bibliography on the research topic. Now, the placement as placed at the end of the text necessarily linked to the in-text citations, and the bibliography is obviously is provided is very minimal. It is only denoting the essential components. For example, numbering, as I already mentioned, that numbering in the square bracket. For example, the reference number 1 at the end of your thesis, at the end of the report, is Sajjad that okay, or number 1 of the bibliographic or the list at the end of the table, then you would at all. We put at all means that ETAL. It means that it is actually what Sajjad and his colleagues wrote this article or give this information. And also, it could also provide last name along with the year of publication, for example, 2015. So this is the information that is present in the in-text citation or citation, and the information that is present in the references include complete details. Like, as I already mentioned, the people who wrote the article, not just the first author, but all of the authors, the name of the article, the name of the journal it was published, the year of the publish when it was published, and the URL or a DOI or a web link. And bibliography is descriptive. It also gives all of the information regarding a particular source for those who want to refer it. The purpose of actually citations, purpose of references and bibliography is that the assessor or the reader or your supervisor, if they want to verify a fact or a figure, for example, you have given a figure related to 9 planetary boundaries, for example, from the NASA website, or the United Nations websites, and they need to verify the source. They need to verify either the figure you have provided in your thesis, in your paper, is accurate or not. They can go to the bibliography. They will copy the link or the full description of the uh, b- uh, article, or description of the people, or description of the uh, that particular article, and he would search it, and he would verify either you have provided the accurate information or not. And for references, you can use these three easy software steps to give the references in your thesis, on your reports. First one is EndNote. It's a software. You can get it from the Google. You can download it. The second one is Mendeley. Mendeley, I would recommend Mendeley because it is very, very easy to use. And also you can use Google Scholar. As you can see on the screen, that you get an option of cite, CITE, when you select a research article to study, then you get the option of cite, and you can get this tab where different types of references are mentioned. So you can just copy and paste that in onto your reports or onto your thesis. So these three are the ways that you can use to create a bibliography for your thesis, for your assignments. But keep in mind that you have to tally the reference style, because they may get disturbed when you go copy and paste it. Now, that's the end of the session. It is earlier than intended. If you have any question related to today's topic, you can freely ask me. No questions?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Ms. Aisha, thank you for this amazing session. एक चीज I just need to clear it. Okay, how do we search for a review article?
You can simply, as I already mentioned, either just type review. For example, you are going to, if you want to find a review on, for example, climate change, just write the keywords review, climate change. Either use this method, or you can just go to the Google Scholar and type the uh, keyword climate change. And on the right side of the screen on the Google Scholar, you can see that when you press enter, you will see that on the right side where the dates are mentioned, that you need to get the articles from, for example, this year to this year, this year to this year. You will also get options of a review article or research articles. So articles, it would only give you the list of review articles.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, I guess there is no question regarding this session. Right, then let's end this session. And I would like to say that since it is very hot in majority of the earth, please keep water bottles with you for yourselves and for others in need. And cover your heads and take care of yourself. Have a good night. Allah Hafiz.